Hello, it's me, Jess. Welcome to my channel. I'm here with another channeled message. This is a specific message. It might resonate with you, it might not. All right, so in this situation that I'm tapped into, I feel like you said something or you did something. Somehow you reflected a masculine energy back to himself. And I feel like this is in regards of his emotions and his actions. So in regards of his emotions, I feel like the words genuine and emotion really belong in the same sentence with you. I do feel like you're very genuine in your emotions, or at least like in this particular moment, whatever this situation was, he could see that this was coming from a genuine place, meaning you weren't trying to manipulate him or control him or make him do something. This was like some type of genuine expression of your emotions. And I feel like whatever it was that, because you could have been having a conversation where you were talking about your emotions and you were talking about the way that you were feeling and that really resonated with him. Or there could have been a genuine emotional expression here where you like cried or you were exacerbated or something, but he could not just see that that was very genuine and that there was no like ulterior motive. That was the truth. He also resonated with it on a deep level in a personal way. Like I feel he saw himself and his own emotions. I just heard pent up emotions, like tangled up emotions that he couldn't really process or give words to or make sense of. He saw that reflected back in you. But I feel like that had to do with like his emotions had to do with another situation. And specifically, I think that it had to do with his father, like when he was growing up and maybe what's happening in their relationship now. And I don't think you knew that, or I don't think you understood that. Like you might not know anything about this man's like father or like the father situation. But I don't think that you could have put those words together any better to describe the way that he felt about his dad maybe trying to come back into his life or, something here like that. If you tried, you weren't meaning to, but that's why I'm saying like whatever emotions you were sharing, it really resonated with him, and it resonated with him on two different levels because he was there with you in the conversation or whatever it was that you were expressing. I'm not sure if you realize it. I'm not sure to what degree. Some of you don't know. Actually, I feel like a lot of you don't know that this did affect him in this way because it feels like it landed on a couple of different levels. One is like that kind of superficial level of you guys just processing, talking, and like hearing and understanding one another. And I feel like he was there. I feel like he just kind of kept doing whatever it was that he was doing before. So for some of you, it's like maybe he was like quiet or something, but he has been like thinking about this. For others of you, I think that he actually like acknowledged you, but you didn't know that he was also like kind of emotionally affected on this deeper level, if that makes sense. So that really hit him on a deep place, and it's almost carrying with it this like tower energy, but the tower energy is one of like epiphany. So, but this epiphany had to do with feelings, seeing you actually reflecting those emotions or like in somehow stringing a sentence together or just expressing it in a pure way connected him with his own feelings. He had this realization, something here about his father. And I think it had to do with his own actions. Like, I've made you feel the way that my father made me feel. I just heard, I guess I'm my father's son after all. It doesn't feel like there's a high opinion here of this father. And I feel like he made superficial changes in himself that made him feel like he was different than his father and made him feel like he was victorious or better than his father. But I feel like this is a kind of thing where like the underlying issue, which has to do with Mars, and it might have to do with like abuse even, the underlying issue didn't really change. It just was displaced. Like I feel like displacement is kind of like a big word, and I'm not sure why, so I'm just going to set that to the side. But I feel like that energy was kind of like just displaced, where he thought that he had eliminated it and he's not like his father. But it's just that, say his father, I don't know, left him when he was really young, was like very absent or would only kind of come around. He is like, well, I would never leave my kid's life. So he's like somehow in his kid's life and he thinks I'm not like my dad. But there's like a boom bust cycle here with the dad, I think, and like with the family and with emotions and with love. And maybe even like a feeling of having to tap out or feeling overwhelmed. I feel like he does the same thing that his dad does, but like maybe the victim changes. Like he doesn't do that to his child. He does that to women, or he doesn't, I don't know, say the dad was like maybe physically abusive and he's not physically that way, but there's a different way that it's like emotional. He's that way. where it still is landing, it's still making you feel that same way. And that is what I want to say is like displacement. He didn't deal with his emotions. He didn't like get rid of that. He just displaced it, and it's still expressing. And that's where like trauma gets passed on, and trauma becomes like this hot potato. And I'm not sure that he has the words about all of this yet, but I think he's realizing like, well, this is the cycle of trauma. He might not know what the cycle of trauma is, but he's like, this, oh my God, I'm just like my father, this. He is in some way understanding that he's passed it on. Like he's kind of the same way, and whatever he was doing before, it hasn't eradicated it the way that he thought, and that he's really no better. It kind of reminds me, we were reading that book, Why Does He Do That? And the author was, his definition of ABUSE is that it's a mindset. It's not actually an emotional wound. It's like more of a mindset. But there is some kind of connection here to an emotional wound. It's like the emotions that are caused in you. But yeah, it's a mindset. Maybe he hasn't realized. I don't think that he's realized it's a mindset. Well, maybe. But the mindset has to do with entitlement. Like, well, I'm entitled to do this. And like justification. And I feel like both of those things were at play here with you because of his role as like maybe father or a man or something, because of his role here. And I think some kind of maybe judgment that he cast upon you, because I think for some of you, he refused to see you from this emotional lens. He refused to look at this through the lens of your need or like your emotion or your vulnerability or your sensitivity or your family or something. Because I think he might have, for some of you, I'm getting like stuck up. I don't think you're actually stuck up. I think that he was like, well, you're just a Miss Priss, and there's no ever pleasing you anyway. Like your standards are just like too high. I could never hope to please you anyway. And that's a very convenient appraisal of the situation, and it's really a cop-out, because if that's the problem, you being a priss, then you can see how his mindset, his thoughts would be like, so I'm going to teach you a lesson. Like, oh, well, you're just a priss, so your emotions are not something that I need to pay attention to. It's not something that I need to take seriously. And actually, like, you're the problem because you're a priss and because you have high standards, when that wasn't it at all. I think he can see like you had emotions, like you had an emotional need that you were trying, maybe even desperately, to be like seen and to be understood. Like, please stop hurting me, like is what I'm getting. And he didn't really get that before. And I'm not sure that he's really let on that he's gotten that like at this like very deep level. But like I said, I feel like something like really landed. I'm seeing it land in like the second chakra. And it's that tower energy. It's that epiphany energy. It might have to do with like schmegduality. It might have to do with security. But whatever it was, I'm hearing the word like unravel, like unraveling. He started to connect the dots in this way, like to his father, I want to say, and his feelings and his own actions and like his father's actions. And he started to see beneath the surface. He started to connect the dots and see the similarity, that the mask changes, the face changes, but that underlying issue doesn't change. And I want to just say, Tim Fletcher, a psychologist on YouTube, definitely check out his channel. It's so helpful. But he defines trauma as like in a family unit, trauma is pain that a family does not know how to exercise, which is why the cycle continues. So you can understand, like, if it was as simple as, oh, like my dad wasn't around, I'm going to make sure that I'm around for my kid. Probably a lot of families would have figured out a lot of their trauma, but it's like deeper than that. It's like underlying patterns. And you have to learn how to recognize that, okay, well, I feel again, like he made like a superficial change that he thought was the bulk of the issue, but really the expression has just changed. And the expression is like this Mars energy, which is, by the way, why I like astrology so much, is because so many things are connected. And if we just speak about them as concepts, it's harder, at least for me, to make that connection. So what I mean is, like, Mars in astrology rules over a number of things, but it sources from that same energy. So when we're talking about a Mars issue, you can be talking about the body, selfishness, competition, war, schmegduality, volatility, aggression, any of those things, right? Like, and more, and also like males, like male children, especially, all of those things. So that Mars energy, when it is the problem, which I feel like it is, I feel like this is a masculine wound. Well, it gets displaced. I feel like this just gets warped and displaced. So if you identify one expression of Mars, which for his father, it may have been aggression, let's say, and he's like, well, I'm not going to be aggressive, but he's a cheat. He's just obsessed with schmegs, right? That's another Mars energy. And it ends up being still abusive the way that he uses it as like a cope. And it has this same kind of like effect on the people that he points it towards. It's because the underlying issue hasn't changed. This is not a family who has learned how to kind of like deal with their issues. And I think he's kind of realized that he's perpetrated onto you, because there's something here unraveling. It's like unraveling, I want to say, like his worldview. And it may have something to do with the emperor, like the masculine and the roles that, you know, like father, leader, culture, something like that. It's unraveling that. And I also think it has to do with like self-image. Like he is kind of realizing that the way that he sees himself is not accurate. And he needs to update that, because he can see that he is a person that has genuinely caused you pain. And I feel like Spirit has kind of done this here, where, oh my gosh. Okay, so for those of you that have watched the channel for a while, and especially like the live streams, I just like snapped to a live stream that I did like a while ago, at least like maybe a year ago. It was pile number 1. Maybe it was over a year ago, I'm not sure. But it was the one where I was seeing you underwater, which I always see you at the bottom of a river, right? But this was the one where I was seeing, it was almost like I could tell it was the river, but then it snapped into like this crystal clear pool, and I was standing at the bottom and I could see you, and it was like this statue of you, and it actually looked really beautiful. And there was you like reaching out, screaming underwater, and there was a child that was kind of clung onto you. And I remember saying like, it was some kind of reading to do with past lives, because it was something like you got like ambushed and ended very violently, and you were like screaming in shock and terror and fear and pain. And like that scream like kind of became you. And I just like realized that I do think that for a lot of you, there was a child somehow like involved in that situation in a past life, or like between the two of you. But I feel like the child was him. It's like his little self, because it's like he perpetrates the same pain onto you that his dad perpetrated onto him, and he has to admit to himself that he has not fixed it, and he does not know how to fix it. And whatever like messed up thing he did, maybe to try to control you or hurt you, he understands his father more now, is what I'm getting. Like, yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. For some of you, I feel like maybe there's a lot of things this could be, but like maybe his dad started like another family, you know, but wants to kind of come in and out. And for him, he's like, I'm scared to open up to you. Like, you don't really love me, you know, you would rather be with them. I'm just trash. Like, I'm just kind of like left behind. And I think maybe he did this to you instead of dealing with your emotions, instead of dealing with something directly here. And he's realizing his dad was all about saving face, and that felt safer to his dad. Like, oh, well, I'm changed now. That was me in the past. And now look, I'm doing really well. Instead of, again, this family doesn't know how to communicate to like unearth the pain, instead of his dad saying like tending to his emotions. And I feel like actually he feels very needy on an emotional level, like from his dad. And maybe he made you feel needy, or that he does things to make you and possibly other women or like people in the family feel needy of him in order to feel in control. And he's realizing that's abusive. It's not strength. It's not like masculinity, but all of this, I feel like he's kind of piecing together somehow. And I'm just like throwing out examples, but it's something like that where he's like, oh my God, like I literally have done the same thing. And like, why can't I like open up to my dad, and like all of that? Well, that's exactly you. And I feel like, again, Spirit has done that. Spirit has like made it to where he can't like really look at you and like your emotions without seeing the younger version of him. And it's changing the way that he's looking at his own actions. So that's why I'm saying there's been some clarification that in some way, and I don't think you were meaning to do this, in some way you reflected back his emotions, but connected it with his actions, because his actions is what caused that to you. And so now he has to look at it from both sides of like, okay, well, actually I can see how my actions hurt you, and I can see why it's so hard for you to open up and trust me, and why you acted the way that you do, because that's exactly how I feel. And that's how I am acting with my dad, you know? And I think he has to wear like even how ashamed like his dad is, like to bridge the gap between the two of them, because, you know, or even things like his dad saying, well, why can't you just get over it? Because the emotional flashbacks, you know, that would come up of, I don't know, I'm feeling discarded again. Or I'm like, if his new family calls or something, and this son, you know, like shuts down and feels dejected. Oh my gosh. Okay. I just heard, was any of it true? Gazing at me starry eyed. That is, The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived by Taylor Swift. Yo, so he does not think highly of his dad. I'm genuinely getting that. He thinks his dad is like the smallest man who ever lived, that it was like so small of him not to be able to bridge the gap. But then he's like, oh my God, I literally did the same thing to you. I was a coward. I did the same thing because I was overwhelmed at how in the wrong I was. And also I had to hold space for the hurt that I caused. And it's not something that's going to go away overnight. You might get like, it could be 10 years later and you could just get those flashbacks. And am I going to be able to just hold you through that and just comfort you, even if not like, you know, with my words, but just with my actions, that like, I'm right here. Like, I'm not going away, and just allow you to have like your process, the process that I put in you. No, I don't really know that I'm prepared for that, or like that his dad was. And so if there was a separation here, that might've been why, is because that's what's needed for healing. And he just wasn't the guy. He's still stuck in this like abusive mentality. And part of that is the way that he was looking at you, and he was disregarding and displacing. So he was disregarding like your feelings and like your innards. You know, he didn't want to see that he was hurting you. He didn't want to see you as a sensitive person who your actions like were reflecting your sense of safety or boundaries or needs. Again, there was some type of entitlement. Well, and that had somehow it was tied into his version of your actions, and you being I think stuck up or a priss or richer than him or something. And that was a very convenient excuse for him to cut off. And also displacement. I think he's realizing like he feels his dad just like, I just heard you in 2 months, you replaced us. I Had to Lose You to Love Me by Selena Gomez. So yeah, he felt maybe replaced by his dad, whether that was like, well, maybe his dad had a gambling addiction or was like always at the bar or something. So, or he had like an entire new family or like an entire new life or something. Because I think for his dad, it was so like how much he fucked up was like very painful. Not that I'm excusing it, but I'm saying he understands the psychology, or he is more and more understanding it. And he is seeing it in himself. And all of this is very deep and I think kind of painful, but he is processing through it. But displacement is big here because I feel like he displaced his feelings for you. It's like it split him. And because he needed to go deal with you directly and tend to your hurt and your emotions and have like an honest emotional conversation. And then there wouldn't be any displacement here because nothing ever really goes away, right? It's just like there's a bunch of pressure here and then it just gets displaced. And so if this man like, for some of you, I feel like he got another family, maybe even like really soon. And it's not really built on the right things, but it's like this like displacement. Oh my gosh, I just heard you hung me on your wall, stabbed me with your push pins. That's again from The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived. So there's something about the karmic too. There's a lot of karma here. So I don't take this as it resonates, but because I feel like y'all are soulmates and he needed to go make things right with you and then just like be integrated, like his entire self and his life and his life path. He refused to do that. So he created like this offshoot with a karmic in order to save face. I think that's what his dad did. He understands that, but like he wasn't realizing that as he was doing it. It all made sense to him. He was justifying his actions, you know, and with this displacement, but I feel like maybe there's something about the karmic that you hung me on your wall, stabbed me with your push pins. You might have felt that way too. And I think he felt that way with his dad. Maybe this is a guy who like ultimately was successful and like dad was never around, but then he made the paper and, you know, you hung me on your wall, stabbed me with your push pins, in public showed me off, then sank in stoned oblivion. So maybe this is a dad who, you know, was all rah-rah when they were out in public, but then they'd come home and dad didn't want to spend any time with them or anything like that. I don't know, but I feel like there's maybe the karmic also is expressing these emotions because he's very vacant. Like he's very absent because he doesn't like want to be over there. Yeah, this is like a cycle, you know, a big cycle that he's kind of like realizing that he makes other people feel the way that he felt as a child because he is an unhealed masculine and he's not dealing with that. And this is so unfair. And I just heard the cycle continues. So I think he's realizing he passed on this karmic cycle, like in his family to his children. And it is a cycle of like anxiety. Yeah, anxiety over, I am seeing this like young man having anxiety, seeing his dad with like another woman. Oh my God. And that's what he did to you. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. So I saw, okay, I saw celebrities, but I don't think I want to say who it is. But okay. So I just saw, okay, like say a kid. Okay. So I am seeing that like America Ferrera scene in Sisterhood from Traveling Pants where her dad is moving on, having dinner with another family. She throws the brick through the window. I'm seeing this young man see his dad move on with somebody else, he felt that way. Like, I want to throw a brick through that window. It brought up a lot of anxiety. He felt like he had to have a lot of inner strength. He had to act like he was okay with it, but he felt all jumbled. He felt like he wanted to rage, like he wanted to fight. He felt not good enough. He felt worthless. He felt like, I'm just trash and you're moving over there where everything's happier. And his dad is legit doing that. His dad made a mess over here with his family, did not clean it up because it was too painful for his dad to go deal with himself, like where he did that. And that hurt this little boy so bad. He knows the pain of that. And I feel like he intentionally did that to you. Because he was like, this'll do it. This'll hurt her, you know? And I'm not even sure that it was a conscious thought. I just feel like it was subconscious. And maybe there were some fears there as well about, I don't know, about maybe not being able to live up to the emperor, the manhood, because he needed that so bad, but didn't really have a good example. So I don't know, but it's just like he put that pain into you. He did the same thing to you. And I feel like he really cared about you. And I also feel like you were moon energy, like you were very sensitive. And maybe, I'm also getting that there's a sense of him creating a neediness in people. And maybe he felt very emotionally needy towards his dad, but also rejected by his dad. That's another cycle that he creates. But I think it's also, there's something here where he like blows up this like Hierophant energy. And that's a part of a bigger cycle with his karma, where it has him incarnating in families like this, where, because he doesn't build Hierophant energy, like a relationship with a woman. He doesn't, with his soulmate, he doesn't invest in that and build that and give it to a child. He does everything that I just described, this cycle of displacement, where he blows up a situation. Because also his karma in terms of his family, because I feel like he's supposed to create a family with like you. So there's like, in a way, yeah, he is creating karma over here with a family that maybe he did build. And like there's displacement energy all to do with that. He displaces his, I don't know. He feels like he has more control over here. I don't know. Because he's not as emotionally affected or whatever. That is a part of his karma. Especially that is a part of his karma. I feel like, yeah. And then, but also the fact that he was like not there for your kids, like together, let's say, you know, he's supposed to have a family with you. So even if you don't have any kids together, but like you were supposed to, that was like the path that the divine laid out. And we do have free will here. So you can choose to be off that path, but like you were supposed to be on that path. That's still considered like, well, you weren't there for your divine kids. Maybe they weren't born, or maybe he left these kids and did the same thing to his kids over here. Or he created a family like outside of like your union to try to keep you in line or something. You see what I'm saying? And so I just feel that he isn't building stability for kids like in a family. And he then is faced with the fruits of that, like whenever he reincarnates. That's at least my worldview. Something here like that. I don't know. Because everything is a cycle, and it's like cycles upon cycles upon cycles. And I do feel like there's like a reincarnation cycle here of like, the way to solve like kind of getting out of this is this family needs to learn like where the pain is coming from. It's definitely like unhealed masculine. It has to do with shame. It has to do with like not being direct. It has to do with like trying to save face. These men are more concerned with saving face and appearing strong and appearing like in control. They're too much that way to acknowledge to their, I think, child and their offspring that like to tend to their emotional needs, which their emotional needs are to know that they are important and that they're loved. And you know, like, but the dad is too busy like saving face, you know? So yeah, I don't know. Cause I feel like, I don't know. All this is like really hard to put into words, but somehow like you reflected all of this back to him and you didn't even mean to. I just feel like it was, you pulled the right pin kind of a thing. And it all started to unravel, and his like worldview, especially like around the masculine and his self-perception that he had so firmly displaced from his father, and so firmly like, and now they're showing me like a square, but like with a lot of rectangles and squares in it. And they're showing me like that's his mind. And actually I think that's connecting to the mind card in like the Osho Zen Tarot deck. It's been a long time since that was my first deck ever. But it's been a long time since I had that because an old boyfriend gave that to me, and I'm the kind of person that gets rid of everything. So I think that was the Four of Pentacles, and then it was the mind card, but I'm not entirely sure. And that, yeah, the Four of Pentacles is my Emperor wannabe card. So it's like this, I just pretend to to be a masculine, and that's as like good as I can get. And then I'm like all in this mind energy, but the mind, like I'm seeing it as a square with all these like rectangles and squares in it. It's like he compartmentalizes everything. And I feel like, okay, so now this is the last thing that I'm going to tap into, because I could probably keep going with this, but I just saw his higher self and it's very crisp. It's looking right at me and it's huge and it's right here. And I'm seeing the higher self interacting with the mind and he's looking right at me, the higher self. And he's like we're both looking at this like rectangle where I'm seeing him, like this masculine in there. And I'm seeing, like, he's showing me the 9 of swords, but it's like a gif or like a gif, however you say it, the 9 of swords, where it's just kind of like, I'm seeing like that guy, like, you know, rock back and forth in the bed crying, like over and over again. And it's like anxiety. So at the heart of this is like anxiety that this guy refuses to deal with. And he keeps his anxiety kind of sectioned off. He doesn't realize how this anxiety permeates through and affects like pretty much everything that he does and all these decisions that he's making, because he's too busy justifying himself and feeling entitled to be a certain way. And that's how he's trying to keep everything kind of, and so he's showing me it's like really in there. And I'm kind of telepathically just saying like, well, what do we do? How do we like bust it out? And he looks at me and he's grabbing a wrench and he's like opening up like this little tiny like vent or something in the back. Oh my gosh. I just saw him like push his lips through and he's making these like duck sound, like it, that's like neither here nor there, but he's putting like some type of vibration in there where he's creating, his higher self is creating something in that anxiety. And actually what he's showing me, okay, I'm seeing swirling lines and I just saw breasts and a butt. Okay. So I feel like there's something maybe about you, something about okay. I want to say that this is like you creating like a soulmate, somebody who's equally as stubborn, but it feels like a soulmate and also a karmic, because I feel like the karmic may have reflected something like this back to him as well. You hung me on your wall, stabbed me with your push pins. Like, look, you really have no interest in being with me. You really want to be with your soulmate over there, but you can't go back there and deal with that. So I'm just like your beard. I'm just your cover. I'm like helping you save face or something. Like, so I feel like, again, her emotions, like he's causing everyone pain. So I feel like it has to do with the women in his life, maybe like his mom and then you and a karmic. Like he's creating these like women and they kind of draw him in a certain way. It has to do with their bodies. That it draws them in a certain way. But I'm seeing these swirls turn in, I'm seeing like the ram, like the Aries ram, and that's telling me like stubborn. They're equally like as stubborn as he is. And they're like getting their point across, like in some kind of way. And each one, like the soulmate does it one way, the karmic does it one way, the mom's doing it one way in order to like deliver this message, I guess. I don't know. And I think it's like connecting it back to the father, making him see that he's just like his father, making him see a reflection of his abuser in himself. Like there's some type of anxiety like linked to that, you know? So yeah, like nothing he did was ever good enough to get his dad's attention, or he was desperate for his dad to just like see him. Like, can you please see me? You know, can't you see my emotions? Can't you see that I need you? Like, or like, why do I have to act out, you know, like just to get your attention? Yeah, there could have been a pattern here of this child like acting out whenever the child would have an emotion, just so maybe the child would even get in trouble, get sent to the principal's office or something. And then the dad would come in and like discipline and like act like a father. But that was the closest that this child had to like family. That's like a cycle of negative attention. And it feels like somehow there's a boom bust cycle with like this father's energy and attention, or like fatherly love, or just love in general, softness in general, emotions. Like maybe even after like he would get in trouble, that's how like the dad would bond with him, you know, like, yeah, I used to get in a lot of trouble too. And they would actually kind of talk about emotions, but there's this like boom bust cycle, because I feel like I'm hearing the child say like, why is it always like, why can't I just have like a steady drip of like love and affection? Why is it always this like boom bust thing? And I feel like I have to act out or something, like just to be able to get your attention. And so as an adult, I feel like maybe for some of you, this guy's like a hoe, like he's just around, because, and that may come from him seeing his dad mistreat his mom. And he's like, well, I'm never going to do that. So I'm never going to settle down. And he feels like he's doing her a favor, but actually he's continuing to abuse women. Emotionally though, and schmeggerly, and use them and exploit them. And he's still putting the same kind of pain. And he's like, well, I'm doing you a favor. No, he's not. He's just warped it. He's just displaced it. He's transmuted the energy, but it's a similar effect, you know? But yeah, and I think that's like boom bust, where especially like if you're giving genuine love or like there's an intensity there, it's like he's just not used to it because there was a boom bust cycle with love like in the home. And so he'll have to like yeet out. And he has to learn how to like stabilize his energy. This family does, in order to get rid of this like family curse. How you have like steady kind of love. Because even if he's like, well, I'm going to stay in this like marriage or whatever, he's like checked out, you know? So it's a similar feeling. Maybe like it's getting better and it's kind of like moving, you know, over time, but it's still the same pain cycles that are playing out. And potentially all of it is at your expense here. Like if you are the soulmate, like just a serious mistreatment and like lack of justice here. So, okay, that was a lot, but that's what I have for you. If that resonates, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Bye.